And even if you were to have like a prompt of 10 different things, right? Like say if you had one prompt of like, oh, like here's 10 different personality traits, here's 10 different superpowers, here's 10 different drawbacks.
I like coming up with random list of powers and then just see what I come up with.
Imagine rolling just those things every single time. It's always going to vary. The possibility of that happening is, again, like a 1 in 10 chance, but it's like, it shows that there's an infinite
There's always something else cool right around the corner that we can come up with, because there's no end to the prompts. There's no end to what we can roll up.
Now we're going to be officially rolling for superpowers. This is usually the make or break.
Roll for hero.
All right, I think we're in action now.
We are indeed.
All right, might as well just still go on with the show. Ayo and hello, everyone, and welcome to Roll for Hero, a segment of the channel in which we let the dice dictate what on God's green earth we will be drawing for today. It is me, your ever weird and ever loving Uncle E, back at it again from an entire weekend of fun and excitement. But of course, you know who's right next to me. You know him, you love him, claimed to be the world's sexiest man of all time, Mr. Fish.
What is up, everybody? Glad to be here. Glad to be back from Tulip City Comic and Toy Fair. That was an awesome time getting to hang out with your weird Uncle E and T.S. Luther from all kinds of awesome indie comics that he's writing. We got to hang out with Sam and Josh and all kinds of cool folks out there at the show. Had a wonderful time. It was really cool. Got to do our first Roll for Hero live action panel. We got to hand out the books. We got to hand out dice. We got to come up with awesome, cool new characters. What is up, Dadpool? What's up, User Snag? What's up, Jordan? Dragon Gaming? Good to see everybody. How did you like your first show, Uncle E? How'd it go for you?
My first convention that I have ever... So for those that do or don't know, we went to Tulip City Comic-Con in Holland, Michigan. It was a blast and a half actually going there. Not only that, I was with Mr. Fish literally every step of the way. Flew from Florida over there. Fish picked me up, with his very lovely wife. And I'm not going to lie, when I say this, and I say this in the best way possible, it was like hanging out with white grandparents for the first time. Because that's exactly what it was. But it was the best experience ever. Just got to hang out with them, got to talk, some spitballing some ideas. The panel was a lot of fun. Obviously, it wasn't huge, but it was more than one person, which is something that I'm really, really happy about. And now it kind of got me thinking about like how we should go about executing, doing the Roll for Hero live panel. And it was just a blast and a half. It was also the first convention that I've ever, vended at. So it wasn't just me going, there as a guest, but also like going there to, do the panel, but then also to sell my comics, which, by the way, I'm officially out of all forms of the Grub issue #1. So all the copies that Mr. Fish printed for me, and then of course the one that I had on hand, all gone, all sold. And for my first convention, I was very happy at the results of getting those all out and about. But again, none of this would have happened with the amazing connections that I made with Mr. Fish, as well as, everyone else that I managed to befriend along the way in this comic book journey. So it was a lot of a learning experience. It was a ton of fun, and I honestly can't wait to go back to do it again, and just can't wait to see where else this takes me. So, not only that, a couple more pages away from finishing the Grub #2. I'm even trying to kickstart some other ideas, like maybe doing like a fun sci-fi thing with Fish and TS, but we'll get to that whenever we get to that. What do you think about this whole thing, Mr. Fish?
Oh, man, I had a lot of fun. The panel was a lot of fun. Getting to listen to you pitch your books was a lot of fun. This kid knows what he's doing. He's definitely got the salesman vibe. It sounded like listening to like a well-trained Ginsu knife salesman next door to me at the table next door. Had those pitches down, was not afraid to talk to people coming up, because a lot of times you end up with people that are just like on their phone the whole time and won't look up. Constantly engaging with people that came by. Made me proud. I was glad to have you there. I was glad to be able to help out. I was glad to get to see you show out on your first time. See you sell out of books was freaking awesome. It was a good time. I was glad.
The only things that I didn't sell out yet were these little pocket comics over here of Captain Courage and Unicorn Girl, and I actually have less Unicorn Girls than Captain Courage, so I know where my priorities lie. So it's also a good learning experience. So for anyone, if somehow you manage to vend at a con, figure out which one sells the most, and then pretty much go from there. You know,
Do more of that.
especially. Oh yeah, especially the grub ended up selling a lot because I then created the perfect pitch for it, which was, what if Peter Parker got bitten by a different radioactive insect? People loved it. They all had like a little chuckle at it because it's kind of funny, and then they're like, yeah, you know, I'll go for this grub one. So that one sold a lot. So hopefully I'll be able to create something just as fun and very catching, and hopefully we'll go from there. And again, like I said, I have some ideas that I want to shoot for TS and with Fish. See if we can get some, fun kids books on the way, or just like an all ages book. So then that way, they have more variety to sell, because they sell a variety of books. Like you got Alice Land, the Green Zone, you got T-Man and Hyper Strike, and you got the Mighty Caw, which you can go right now to GoMrFish.com and go acquire yourself some of the good old, comics of all varieties. And then we got TS selling, The Digger, which is, by far his best-selling series. And not only that, Hellion and Bash.
Hellion and Bash. He's got Tokyo Fire. He's got lots of awesome stuff over there, as well as a whole bunch of copies of Alice Lost in Wonderland. So
yes,
he's good to go for a while. Do you two have the book cover to show on stream? No, it's the same as it was. I didn't get a chance to change it yet. So the first print run that I did for the show is the same as it was on the PDF. I didn't change anything yet. I've only got the one other character to put on there. Where do we go to buy the Grub issue 1? Asks Dad Pool.
Great question. Pending answer. Because right now, I am still all over the place in terms of trying to figure that out. Because, again, this is first time running a business and everything. But also, yeah, so right now, the Roll for Hero handbook is, old covers. So this here might be the last batch. So, guys, if you guys want us to utilize your art pieces and have it on the cover, so that way, it's going to be shown at conventions, and, that way we can sell it to y'all, or to anyone out there who wants to acquire this, please utilize the hashtag Roll for Hero on all social media platforms. As you draw your characters, we'll find a way to crop it and smack it onto the cover to show all the amazing, characters that, been coming from this entire show. And not only that, but this was a really nifty looking handbook over here, beautifully handcrafted, beautifully cut, by the one and only good old Mr. Fish right over here. And honestly, this came out really good. I especially love how it just kind of bled through, perfect. This is a perfect little booklet. I love it. And
yeah, I know a little bit about what I'm doing on that.
Oh yeah. So if you want to find a way to kickstart your entire comic book creation journey, go get yourself the Roll for Hero handbook. Start your entire journey by creating your very own universe with nothing more than dice or imagination and the pen in your hands. Anyways,
get those up for sale pretty soon. What is up, Victor Medina? Good to see you, man.
Hey. Anyways, last time on Roll for Hero, or as of last week's episode, it feels weird to say last week because it was such an eventful weekend. But literally,
there's been a lot that's happened since last week.
For real. So last Wednesday, we ended up doing these art pieces in which we took these two different alien heads, and we actually swapped it with each other. So Mr. Fish had like this dragon robot looking kind of head, and then I ended up having this weird platypus duck looking thing, and I didn't know what to do with it. Fish was like, I kind of got a vibe for it. So we swapped the heads, and I had this, so our characters are set in the Chinese mythology region of this little alien fantasy world, or this alien, yeah, basically is what it is. And I have a blacksmith who's like, this dragon beast wars Transformers type of character. And then not only that, I also came up with a color variation. I just kind of inverted the color, did some slight little things here and there. So you basically have like the fire, and then you have the ice dragon kind of character, which honestly, I really like the way these came out. Trying to use like the dragon wings as like an apron, so that when they're blacksmithing, it's just it looks like it's part of their overall uniform. Very much enjoy the way that this came out. But outside of this, Mr. Fish has expertly took my weird duck head model and turned it into Sensei Wu if he was a platypus. Like, look at this.
Yeah, I absolutely love the way he came out as a platypus, sitting propped up on his tail, like meditating. I could see this druid master deep in the woods, meditating, communing with nature, communing with the green, and then people come in and want to seek wisdom for him, and he has to challenge them and see if they're worthy to take on as disciples and teach them his ways. I really dig the vibe of this guy. He was a lot of fun. And then we went on this weekend and we did the Roll for Hero panel, and we rolled up random characters on the spot and created them. And I ended up rolling up aliens that an alien that was a weapons master and could multiply. And the more I got to thinking about, like, I didn't want to make it just humanoid, so I made it a little alien. And then I started thinking of the aliens from Toy Story, with the claw. And so I made them kind of silly looking aliens that with all these guns. And then we got to thinking about the multiplying, and I thought about multiple man. I was like, man, if you smacked these things and they split, that would be awesome. Kind of like a weird little gremlin thing. The more you tried to bash them, the more they multiplied. It was a fun little drawing. I handed it out to a girl at the thing, so I don't have that drawing. I didn't take a picture of it. I wasn't smart
Same
enough to do
here.
that.
And I totally forgot why I ended up making, like, the most that I can remember, that it was a hero who spent his time training with radiation type of powers or something like that. And then again, I just doodled it in literally this sketch pad that I had to buy at the convention because I realized I didn't have a proper sketch pad. So I bought it from the booth that was actually like right next to me there. Oh, would you look at that? It's from I think it was from Sam or John. Anyways,
So-
but yeah, had to.
So anyway, as we were driving home and I kept thinking about those little aliens, I was reminded of this other character that I was trying to work on, and I've been working on a design for. Now, see, I moved it and then it moved to the wrong one. And I realized if I mix them together, that would be really cool. So now I've got this character that I've been working on for my Space Ape story, Trax, who is kind of like an alien biker dude, and where Space Ape's mechanic is a giant single-celled organism, this dude is as well. He's more of like a virus, but he's a giant single-celled organism, and he's her biker ex-boyfriend, who is always like coming around and causing trouble and chasing after them and causing chaos. But I thought how cool it would be if, where she can fix machines and like talk to them and make them do what she wants, what if he tears them apart and builds weapons and stuff out of them? And the more you smash him or hit him, the more he splits into these separate pieces. What is up, Matt? Good to see you. Speaking of Tulip City Comic and Toy
How we
Fair,
doing, Matt?
I was just talking about some of the aliens that I've designed in the panel, and I ended up combining them into this character. And so now we got the big form of him, and then we got him when he's all smashed up into pieces, tearing up the ship. And then, of course, he's got to have his own ride to get around, where Space Ape basically travels in a giant red space Cadillac rocket. This dude's just driving an engine, because, macho-ness and whatnot.
I mean, he's basically just like Goop from Ben 10 if you combined him with Lobo and gave him the multiply man power. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
By way of like critters and gremlins, that would pretty much be it. Yeah.
Man, I really, really like the way that design came out. Like, that was spectacular. And again, I have this desire, like I stated a billion times, it's gonna get annoying when I say it, but like I need to like snag TS out of the way, get you to pop in and be like, all right, we're working on a sci-fi thing together, and it's gonna be fun. And I don't care if it's Space Ape, I don't care if it's Jupiter Jack, Meteor Mandy, or Mercury Mandy, since came up with a bit of a fun title for that there. Anyways, to get away from all that fun stuff, we're going to dive into this episode for today, and we're going to finally be getting into, rolling up, an alien that happens to live in this sandal-punk world. So for those that do or don't know, this is season 3, episode 4, and we are currently still diving into basically an alien planet that is still going through like the Bronze Age, basically getting out of the Stone Age, just getting like some of these technologies, but it's an alien world, meaning that their variations of like technology is more like magic to them, or like what we would deem as technology, they would deem as like magic. So it is currently like, the early stages of this planet's development, and we have managed to come up with a series of characters ranging from being part of Egyptian mythology to Chinese to what was the
Aztec.
one? Aztec. So we started with Aztec, went to Egyptian,
Yeah.
and then we got into Chinese mythology with the last from last week. So now officially we're going to be going back, and we will be officially rolling up a new character. But before we roll up a character, we actually need to get the alien faces, because again, in season 3, episode 0, or basically like the episode 0 for this season, we more or less came up with a series of different doodles for alien heads, and we're going to now have to pick one and see what the heck we're going to start drawing from here.
All right, let's roll and see which random heads we are going to get. Ding, 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 ding. Woo!
Okay, I love that little dude there. Okay, he's derpy, but we love him. Okay, and then we got Mr. Alien Goat Man over there.
Yeah, he's some kind of weird goat wing antler dude, but he looks cool, so that'll work. I'll take it. We'll make something awesome out of that. Now we need to figure out what their what pantheon we're talking, what
Class, and then their
class.
occupation.
That's the word I was looking for, and their occupation. So which one are we rolling up first?
So I will do Pantheon, since I already kind of have it up here.
All right.
So we're going to roll up for class. We're going to do Pantheon first, and we're going to see where this goes. So this is more or less the ethnic region that we're going to be taking a lot of our visual inspirations from. Again, when we did the Aztec stuff, we took a lot of inspiration from like Mayan to Aztec architecture, tried implementing that into design. Same thing with the Egyptian mythology stuff, where we tried incorporating as much of that as we could. And last episode we did from Chinese. So we tried taking a lot of the ancient, Chinese, art and architecture and inspirations, trying to put that onto the characters. So now, with these characters, what part of the world are they in? Now, also, we are going to re-roll if we get any of them again, just because I don't want us to have to draw the same characters twice, or at least put it in the same part of the world. And we got, let me see what number 7. Oh, and we have to re-roll because I rolled a 7, which is Aztec, which we already have done. All right. Japanese. Wait, hold on. 8. Okay, I lied. I thought it was a 10. I lied. We had 8. Native American.
Okay, cool.
So our alien heads have derived from that of the Native Americans before, those have colonized and partaken in making America.
All righty, good deal.
All right, and then we have the class. So we have, of course, Barbarian, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, and Warlock. So I believe we had Paladin for the first one. The second one was a Rogue. The third one we ended up doing was, I think it was a Druid, if I'm incorrect.
Yeah, it was Druid.
Yeah, it was a Druid. Hence why I decided to make mine like a Beast Wars Transformer type thing. And we got 12 Warlock.
All right.
So warlocks are essentially people who obtain their powers through a pact or like a deal, like the classic deal with the devil type situation where it's like, you give me power, I will do X, Y, Z, Z, Y, X, A, B, C.
All right, good deal. Now we need to find our occupations.
And now for the occupation, this one's going to be a 3d6. Now, I should also state, too, for warlocks, you don't have to always go the devilish route and be like, yes, I make a patron with a demon. You can make them have a patron with, like, a spirit of the ocean, of the land, or, whatever you kind of want out of it. As long as they make a deal of some kind that they allow them to have powers, you can kind of go from there. It's always going to lead to some interesting things. So, okay. All right. this is where we always tend to differ. So, Fish, you can roll up your occupation as I am going to roll up mine. I think we've always done various different occupations.
All right.
All right.
Ooh.
All right. Okay. I definitely got something here. What did you get?
I got Bounty Hunter.
I got
take that fits your character's look to me.
a Native American warlock farmer. And I mean, look at the dude. Look at this dude. He would be a farmer.
Oh, I forgot the Warlock Bounty Hunter. Ooh, that is an interesting combination.
And a warlock farmer. That is a very interesting combination to behold. For sure. Didn't mean to pick you. Oh no, I gotta go all the way down now. Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Actually, I gotta find that exact alien head because, man, it has been. I really like that shape of the head because I just loved how derpy it looks. And it kind of reminds me of this one graphic novel I had as a kid called Missile Mouse. And
Missile Mouse. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a scholastic kind of it was a scholastic book. It was like a comic about this literal spacefaring mouse adventurer or whatever. And he ended up going on this one alien planet that had these like weird reptile creatures and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed the way that, they were drawn. And in a weird way, I guess, like, I subconsciously just, just kind of took that inspiration. But who knows? Who holds copper rod with lithium core and magnet outer core to use as an electric wand. Interesting. The Great Spirit calls upon the warlocks could be powerful animal spirits or darker folklore. For many evil and so on. Be cool if hunted monsters. With your character, I can totally see that happening. I think our characters fit our occupations way too well.
Mm-hmm. I think they do.
Okay. Now I gotta take a look at some Native Americano inspiraciones. Also, on a completely random note, Mr. Fish, it turns out I managed to actually find a 7 brews here in Orlando. So we actually have one.
Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, good deal. We stopped at a lot of 7 brews on the way because my wife is a huge fan. She says she's a coffee lover. I say she's more of a milkshake lover, but she likes her coffee milkshakes. And so we stopped at a lot of 7 brews. Scooters is probably her favorite place of all time, but there weren't as many Scooters up there as there were 7 brews. So
yeah, it was a little fun.
My problem with looking up references is it's so hard to find any references images before like the Wild West era, like when they've already had so much colonial impact that it's hard to find reference material to look at that doesn't have a lot of that influence in it. And like particularly I always like to look for reference and influence from the Quapaw tribe because that's the tribe that lived here where I am. And I like to, when I'm doing anything Native American, I like to tie it back to them as much as possible just because that's the tribe that lived here. Try and be respectful. But man.
And again, we're just taking inspiration. Hence why, as much as I say it's more like mythology, it's at this point, it's more like we're taking more culturalistic influences and just kind of going from there. Because it's always like, don't get me wrong, like, let's be honest, in terms of pop culture here in America, the Greek pantheon, maybe the Egyptian pantheon tend to get, some of their higher recognition. Greek is on top. Then you got Norse mythology, I should say. And then like Aztec, Egyptian just kind of falls flat. So in this case, I also wanted the season for us to kind of like dive into other, I want us to kind of dive into other, parts of the world, because again, our world is so vast, it's huge. And I mean, to create a whole world that has different factions of other, cultures and different ideals would be very interesting. And again, I don't know if we'll ever turn this one into a whole like a potential idea. I mean, the ideas for the characters are always fun, but narratively speaking, I feel like we're always just like creating characters that just happen to live in this world. Like we're developing an NPC for a full-blown like Dungeons and Dragons campaign set on a very strange world.
I don't like that pose.
Just trying to find that right kind of structure here. I think so. What would your warlock pact be like? Would your character pact up with like one of the gods? Would they pact with one of the demons, or would they pact with some type of spirit that would live in this world? Because then that can also affect the way that you design your character.
He would strike me as, I mean, at first blush, he strikes me as somebody who would live in a mountainous region. I guess that's just the goat influence. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. But so it makes me wonder if it wouldn't be a pact with like a mountain god or some kind of, I don't know, almost think like giant or something, like something that would be big and powerful that would live in the mountains that he could make a deal with and serve in exchange, or I don't know. I'm still thinking. I'm percolating. Fun fact, Wendigo originally was described as just a person that was super skinny human with a literal ice-cold heart. The antlers and animalistic features came when the settlers came.
Because the way that I'm thinking about it, mine would try to be, since mine's like a farmer, I think he would try to like make a pact with, like the supposed earth spirits or those, to help create a bountiful, harvest.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Body shape, I think I kind of got down. Because he seems like a really lanky kind of guy. And this is the part where we try to be entertaining, but we're too zoned in drawing.
It's hard to do research on the spot and be entertaining and draw.
Man, I feel like we ask too much of ourselves. Because our nieces and nephews out here, they're just kind of minding their business. They're just looking at two weird uncles just drawing some strange aliens based on Native American adjacent clothing. Words I thought I would never say, but yet here I am. rocking like a hurricane. Anyways. Hmm. 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 Tis do be interesting. Kind of making him look a little bit powerful. I am the avatar of the chosen earth spirits, as they make my harvest plentiful.
That is a heck of a voice for a farmer. Let's see.
Well, you'd be surprised at what kind of people you end up meeting down in the south, I tell you what.
I got that one. And... Alrighty, let's start sketching him in.
Okay.
And he's a warlock. I've never played a warlock character. I don't think I've ever played a real like magic user other than like being handed a character for the first time maybe someplace because I didn't have one made up that they let me play in that game. Perhaps I never really played them very often, mainly because they couldn't use like bladed weapons and stuff back in the day.
Oh, how Dungeons and Dragons have changed ever since then.
Oh yeah, we didn't have warlocks and stuff back then.
See, back in our day, we had wizards and sorcerers. You know, the classic mages, those that didn't have to sacrifice their soul or a part of themselves in order to obtain power and wealth. Nah, I'll say it and I'll say it again. Back then, we had to study how to use magic and the arcane arts, I tell you. Now, all you gotta do is either pray to a god or sacrifice your soul. There's no ingenuity in our archmagery, I tell you what. How did I turn to Fogward Light?
Where is the effort? Where is the discipline?
Where's the pizzazz?
Just making deals all willy nilly.
Have you seen a wizard use? You ever seen a mage use component magic? I tell you, you take some sand and some grit dirt, and next thing you know, kablamo, you're able to create a whole trench wave, an earthquake like never seen before. Took skill, took practice.
And if he's a bounty hunter, then you would think it would be like a god of the hunt or something that he would make a deal with. But he's hunting people. Or
is he hunting people, or is he hunting? I was going to say, is he hunting people, or is he hunting? You know, or is he hunting beasts, or more sentient, or not sentient, more conscious?
Well, it says bounty hunter, so I mean, he's obviously like hunting things people have put a price on. Have you seen the trailer for the Backrooms? No, I haven't. Haven't even heard of it.
I have, and I am oddly intrigued by it. because I was. I'm not gonna say that I was there when it all started, but it does look very interesting. Just because it was just an internet thing, and now that again, kind of like most things nowadays, it was once an internet thing, and now it is a full blown. What's it called? It's an internet thing, and now it's actually becoming a whole movie. I will say because I know the movie's going to make a lot of changes to like how we perceive the back rooms, like the lore of it being that you actually like no clip or you just kind of pop in out of nowhere. I know that's going to change because in this case, like in the movie, you can actually go in and out of it. But it's a movie. You're gonna have to accept the flaws for what it's worth. Not everything can be 100% canon because in the case of the back rooms, that is like an open source material, meaning that people like you, me, Mr. Fish, and heck, maybe Mr. Fish's dogs could even take the concept of the back rooms and just kind of make it their own.
What is it?
It's like you ever heard of the SCPs or anything like that? Or no? Okay. It's an open source, like it's an open community concept. At first, there was like this picture of a strange like building, and the way that it was layered out, it was very strange and very eerie, and people started developing lore about it, and people started saying like, oh, when you go into these rooms, you can't get out of it. So it's like as soon as you like no clip, aka just kind of like phase out of this reality, you pop into this one, and it's like 65 million square miles of this strange space that feels familiar, but yet it's extremely different. It's very vast, it's very wide, but yet supposedly the dark or the back rooms, especially where I believe most of it's kind of being set, is in this damp yellow like section of it where the carpet is like a little damp, and then there's eerie fluorescent lights, and then there's this yellow wallpaper. It started off as like a whole like analog thing with some dude making like a not a funny thing, but like he made a whole like video series based off of it of like someone documenting their journeys in this back room area. And then it became like this whole other, it just became very heavy with lore, and people really liked it. And little did we know that A24, the movie studio, decides to pick this up and is like, hey, let's make a movie out of this. But again, you're making a movie with an open source material. So if you wanted to, you could make a story about people just kind of getting stuck in the back rooms, and it's like a survival horror story because there are these monsters or entities that live inside of it or something like that, and they're probably finding ways to get out of it. Or you can make it into a funny comedy series where maybe people just kind of like pop in, pop out, or do whatever. Heck, I even contemplated the idea of putting the Grub and Power Core in there and them just kind of like fighting their way out of the back rooms until they can get back to their home. Who knows? The story potential are out there. But yeah, it's one of those open source things where it's like anyone could really add on to it. They could add on to the lore. They could, it's a way that like it's kind of like a really unique niche community thing. Because then not only that, after the development of the yellow spaces or the iconic yellow room, people then started to add like other floors, like, oh, careful, because if you no clip out of here, all of a sudden you could be transported to the Infinite Hotel, where it's like literally a series of different hotel halls that have all these doors, and you could actually go in it, and they're like properly made hotel rooms.
What's up, Summer Bandit?
Hey, howdy, hey, how we doing? And then to also answer Archive's question, I have seen the Clayface teaser. It looks very interesting. And we'll see how it ties to the whole cinematic universe. Because supposedly the Clayface from Creature Commandos is also the same Clayface from
same actor.
Movie. It's supposed to be the same actor, but it's also like the same one, like canonically.
The same Clayface, because that's not what the actor said. I mean, he said he's getting to play the same character, but two very different versions of the character was what he said.
Oh no, I think voice acting wise, I think it's different because I know the voice actor who played him in Creature Commandos is doing like the more scarier rendition. But it's more like this horror film rendition of Clayface is actually going to stay like as the canon character from Creature Commandos. So the live action actor is very different from the animated one, from what I've heard, because I think James Gunn's trying to find a way to make sure that the entirety of this universe is like connected, because he wants it to stay like relatively consistent throughout every project. And I will say that is my one gripe with the DC universe. I think it's just because that they don't have that sense of consistency, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the fact that they can tell their own stories, and they're going to be able to experiment a lot more with different mediums, which I'm super excited about. It's just the fact that it's the consistency part that's going to throw a lot of people off.
Yeah.
That's just probably my opinion, because it's like the whole point of the DC universe that it's different. You can tell a variety of different stories, hence why we can have a horror story about Clayface. We can have a bright and hopeful futuristic story with Superman, and why we can tell a strange Guardians of the Galaxy style story with classic Universal movie monsters fighting off political powers. It can happen.
And yeah, you did ask before about the Spider-Man Brand New Day. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago, I think, or it's been a minute.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because everyone's just like, oh my God, Peter Parker looks depressed. Finally! Which is like, I can't believe. It's funny how people would, want him to be in that stage, but like, I get it. They want him to at least be true to some aspect of the character.
It's tough. And everybody's got their version of the character that they like, that went through whatever that made them iconic to them, whether he was happy or sad or whatever, that you identified with him at that point. Like, honestly, I never liked him being married when I was a kid, because I couldn't identify as a, preteen, the thought of like, wanting to be tied to this one girl and not just be running around saving the day and going on adventures. And why would I want somebody that's just going to get mad at me, for being late for dinner or whatever, when I could just be out, beating up Doc Ock all the time? I couldn't understand that idea. Now I get it. But I wasn't at the point to identify with that part then, where a lot of other people loved the fact that he grew up and got married and stuff,
And then now it's more like, can we actually let him be happy? Like, comic wise, can we? Because at this point, he's just being screwed over by the writers, because they're just like, we don't want him to be happy, because if so, that means he has to have character development, and not everyone can identify with like being happy all the time and having things go the right way, even though, respectively, Spider-Man probably built up the most amount of karma doing nothing but good things for New York. And I feel like out of every character who should have a break and who should have like good things coming his way should be Spider-Man.
You would think, but can't always get what you want. That's what Dragon Gaming says.
Yeah, that's why I made the Grub, because it's like the Spider-Man fan fiction I always wanted to make, and also I get to finally make my rendition of this character happy. He's going to go through hell, but then also he's going to like eventually come out on top and make it, because Lord knows that's the message that we really need to start sending out to people these days.
All
right. I'm kind of digging this a little bit, like the formula. Yeah, I like your tribal warrior concept. Loving the way that's looking.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I still haven't nailed down. I think it's going to be some type of like hunting spirit or something like that that he's made a pact with, and now he is hunting down maybe people that have crossed the spirit or broken deals with it, or like, if it's a hunting spirit of the forest and the hills and the whatnot, people that came in and trespassed or took too much, or didn't respect the hunt, things like that, I could easily see being people that, this spirit like puts a bounty on, and it's his job to go take them out. Or, people that come in bringing war for no reason, you know, causing destruction and, upsetting the balance.
No, I kind of thought about it.
Like no potential there.
I would say, like, when I heard that, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me about Ivan, the Invulnerable, with Todd in that steampunk world. And I can imagine that once the civilization advances, maybe that spirit of like the hunt probably passes on from that world, goes to the steampunk world, and then finds Ivan. We're getting interconnected over here.
That's a cool idea. Let's see.
Because so far, aliens have been the most relatively consistent part of this entire show, from the steampunk alien bit that we did with Featherwind and Shelbyville, to obviously doing the entirety of the sci-fi saga that we've done. Plus, with space, you can kind of tie everything together if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm. I love the look of this dude, though. I mean, I love the look of somebody who would probably have been assumed a prey species being the one, being the bad guy, the tough guy that's hunting. But then even like, like say rams aren't predators, but I sure wouldn't want to mess with one.
Exactly.
Rhinos aren't predators, but I don't want to mess with one. That is a herbivore I would leave alone right there.
There we go. Trying my best to make this work.
Oh, that's too thick.
There we are. That's pretty okay. I think I may have drawn my first potential, like, can't tell if it's a guy or girl type of alien. There we are. Okay, so we got... I don't know why I always love, like, the very few fingers on some aliens. Like, love the idea of just drawing an alien with, like, 3 fingers or 4. I don't know why. It's just probably just easier, too, so that way I don't have to keep drawing so many fingers.
Well, and it very quickly shows them as something other than human also is one of the reasons I like it. Because, again, the whole guy in a suit thing, anything that can break up that silhouette, like the legs bending the wrong way or a different number of fingers, always helps me quickly read it as something else. It's easier to come up with the backstory before the character design or vice versa. Is it easy? Says Summer Bandit, which makes much more sense as a question.
I'm going to say it varies depending on how much you know about said character or like said setting. Like, for instance, if I was to create like a random superhero costume and then if I was to chuck it into Marvel, like we can kind of go gung-ho and see where it can go from there. Like the potential idea of like, okay, this is like a random super suit, but then like, what is the suit all about? Or again, it varies. But like if you know the story of a kind of a character, then that can help shape up their overall design. So I guess like like I said, it varies. So if you know how the character is, then it's probably not that hard to design the character. But if you need to like know more about their story, or no, hold on, I think that's probably answered the question. Yeah, it's probably no. I'm overcomplicating it. I'm yapping too much. In essence, yes, it's good to know the character and their story, so that way you can develop what their overall design looks like, because every aspect of their design is telling their story to an extent, right? Like
Yeah,
for
I would
fantasy,
definitely like to know more about the character before going into the design. Like, you know, are they goofy? Are they serious? Are they, grumpy? Do they, take no mess? Do they take no prisoners? Like, the more I know about them, the easier it is to help, feed the design process of what they're going to look like. What would their clothes look like? Would they be heavily armored or lightly armored, things like that. Figuring it out on the fly is a little bit more uncomfortable, but also I tend to do pretty well in that arena too. And I'm used to flying by the seat of my pants, like in role playing games and stuff. I'm making up characters as I go all the time. And so I'm kind of used to it, but I would rather know, like, if I know who we're fighting against, that makes it easier for me to come up with, okay, if, you know, Captain Good Guy Man can do this and that, then, maybe Dr. Evil should, be the antithesis of that. Or, maybe he uses his brains over his brawn, or vice versa, or, you know. But also, this is kind of fun because this stuff takes us in wild new directions sometimes that we never would have gone in. So I enjoy it, but it is fun to have a little bit more knowledge of where you're headed. And like, if you're writing a story about a particular character, like the Mighty Caw, then the types of enemies I want to put him up against. What am I trying to challenge in him? Am I trying to challenge his machismo, or his just physical strength, or his, never give up attitude? Is I can beat anybody, mentality. Uh, I like putting him up against a giant, almost Lex Luthor type king of the world villain, because it's such an antithesis to who Caw is. And, somebody who really thinks things through and makes giant machines and stuff to beat his enemies is a great foil to go up against somebody who's just smash it with a rock like Caw.
Yes, rock, good, rock, perfect. I find it funny that Marvel is only adapting parts of the Spider-Man transformation that Spider-Man is going through in the movie, because they said he would look too scary for the audience, and I would agree. Ironically enough, as much as I love Spider-Man, I'm a huge arachnophobe. So you put a lifelike Spider-Man in a movie, I will freak the heck out, because
Spider.
yeah, I don't want to be looking at that. Don't get me wrong; it would probably be gnarly and awesome in a movie perspective, or as like narrative perspective. But also, I don't want nightmares of a man spider attacking me at night. So, I like the idea of sleeping. I heard it's good for the body. Does the body good, and I plan to keep it that way.
What I'm hearing is, wham, wham, baby wants his bottle. That's what I'm hearing.
Hey, listen, I can admit when I'm a
telling you,
loser.
it would be terrifying.
Professional
but-
loser. 'Cause I know how to lose with grace.
But like you said, most of the fans are like kids. Like, there's
Yeah.
so many little kids that are going to go to this. As much as I would love to see, the Man Spider version on the big screen, I don't blame them one bit if they're not going to do that, because, they're more interested in selling toys and making sure kids come back and, stuff, and in a realistic 3D rendering would be very scary, as opposed to like say on an animated TV show version is not nearly as terrifying.
Yeah, see, that animated TV show one I can actually tolerate because I actually saw it as a kid and I didn't freak out because I knew that if they actually made it too much like a spider, I would forget about it. I wouldn't sleep at night. And yes, wah wah, mommy, I want my mommy in my diapers. I'm a wimp. I can admit to that because there's no way I'm going to be looking at that directly and being like, yeah, that makes total sense.
Esteban loves his mommy. That is a stupid joke I've been doing with my kids forever. Like, I tell them I love them all the time because it's important to me that, you never know what's going to happen. You never know when your last day is going to be your last day. Whatever. I always make sure I tell my kids that I love them and all this stuff. They're never gonna be left wondering how I felt about them. At the same time, it's been a running gag that every time they're like, "I love you too, Dad." I'm like, "Oh, you love your daddy," which is just from a stupid TV show. Like, it's one of my favorite, most obscure lines from King of the Hill, um, from one of the early seasons, when for some reason Bobby, gets a Valentine saying that, his secret admirer is going to come see him. And he is just absolutely 100% convinced because he's a kid that it's Kathy Strug or whatever Olympian is coming to uh, see him for Valentine's Day. That's his secret admirer for some reason. No reason in the world to think that, but he's a kid and he's dumb. And so he's telling everybody that she's coming and has this big party, and everybody from school's there. And then his grandma shows up as his secret admirer and gives him a big kiss and says how much she loves him. And then one of the school bullies was hiding in the closet. And when Bobby's running him out, he's like, "Huh, your grandmother loves you." Like it's an insult. And that's just been so funny to me ever since. And it's stupid. But they don't have to be smart to, be a running bit. You just got to keep running, is all.
Dragon Game said, well, Dragon Game said two different things. When they had Doctor Strange possess a dead version of himself, that Scarlet Witch with and Scarlet Witch moving around like a witch and taking out characters in the scariest ways. I don't know how to properly read that. Sorry, I'm very illiterate, and somehow I make comics. Then something else a Dragon Game said is I like leaning into scary aspects of characters that are meant to be monstrous or just creepy. And that is just as much of a unique aspect to a lot of characters. Like think about the amount of people that try to dive into like the horror aspect of like Batman in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Like the actual impact that he has as a character in Gotham. Like till this day, like if you just imagine when you think about it, like if Gotham was real, there are people out there that will say, "Hey, you better be careful, or else the Batman will come after you." And it's like, wait, what do you mean the Batman? You mean the Justice League guy? It's like, no, that's not the Batman. The Batman's a freaking cryptid. He's like this scary Batman hybrid thing.
Yeah, he's not a guy in a suit.
Like,
He's a monster. He's a vampire. He's a whatever, whatever they think he is. I want to see a Batman movie from that angle, where you only ever see him as a shadow, you know, flipping through the darkness, quickly. You never get a good look at him. He's a legend. Just see it from the perspective of the thugs and the cops and whatnot. And, a lot of people don't even believe in him, whatnot. That is the movie I want to see. But
and I think to an extent that's probably what they're going to do. like they probably want to dive into that element with the Clayface movie, where like they probably will show Batman in an antagonistic perspective and not like just as the heroic hero that fights off bad guys, but more like the, oh shoot, that is a freaking cryptid that's trying to come after me right now. And it's like also like it's a tragedy too, because the movie's about an actor who's trying to keep his vanity but can't even keep up with how he looks anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If I am to be corrected on such a notion as that. If I am to be corrected, I do believe that is what it is. And I think I did pretty okay. Did what I could.
Oh, I haven't even thought about color.
Yeah, I decided to just stick with red, white, and blue. Keep it American. But doing like the fun little patterns to give it that, that fun Native American kind of vibe. What this character's name will be, I will have absolutely. This one I could actually, weirdly enough, see as like a protagonist. I could see this one as like the main character who would have to go on a wide adventure, traversing the land because they made a pact with like the spirit of the earth or of the land, and then maybe they're trying to guide him to finding, the way to bring back.
See, I'm thinking like, making a pact with the spirit of the harvest or whatever, like your father has and your grandfather did, to make for a plentiful harvest and bless your family farm like they've always done, but then this time around something has changed, and the spirit's like, yeah, no, I need you to travel the world, and I need you to like get to the bottom of what's polluting our planet, or what has cut off the water supply, or what one of these other species and gods and realms and dictators or whatever have done that have changed things here, what the real cause of the fall and the harvest has been. And that could be cool, like just thinking, okay, this is going to be like every time, we're going to do the ceremony, I'm going to make the promise, and I'm going to be the best little farmer I can. And he's like, okay, farmer, I need you to go be a warrior and travel the globe and save the day.
Yeah. It's like, wait, what? I thought I was going to do simple farming things, like, go to farm town.
I thought maybe I would go to work on some irrigation or something. No, war. I need you to go stand up to warlords and travel to scary places and do terrifying things.
Because he's like a warlock.
Is it okay if Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what is it?
I was like, but I just wanted to stay here, and no, that's not what we're doing this time around. I understand that's what you thought, but no, we got worlds to save, buddy. Okay.
Oh man, I just wanted to be a farmer. The land was great, economy's cheap. Now I gotta go save the world. The tragedy.
Oh
then,
man. Catch him complaining beforehand, but I'm not even sure I want to be a farmer. I always wanted to travel. And now the spirit's like, all right, I need you to travel the world. Whoa. I didn't mean there. I didn't mean do that.
Freaking the story of Jonah over here being like, it's like, I think I am called to go somewhere. I need you to go to war-torn regions. I think I meant to go anywhere else but there.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
That's a good. I like that idea.
So to an extent, I think we found maybe, but I like the idea of this being the protagonist. Like this is the character that, traverses the land, and maybe they're always being called by the spirits of the land, being like, come over to this region over here. There might be some trouble, and you can help them out. I will lend you my power in order for you to, assist in this situation, to bring prosperity to the world itself. So maybe he lives in like in a desert-ish kind of region, and being able to have a thriving farm, with plants that require tons of water would be like a rarity type of situation. So that could be very interesting, getting to see how that actually works out. So to an extent, I think we almost found one of the protagonists for this idea.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's not like super bound to a titular, because I feel like this kind of alien kind of character, or this design for one, I feel like this could be universal throughout the planet, kind of a deal. Like, yeah, sure, you have your bunny ones, your turtle species, the fish kind of characters here and there. But then, like, this one doesn't really have any ties to a specific animal, because this one's just kind of like almost like it's a green classic alien, just happens to live in a, Native American region of this world. Look at us creating such characters.
I can dig it. A scary Man-Bat movie would be awesome, Dragon Gaming.
I do agree with your conditions here. And again, I'm not much of a horror guy, but I can respect the game for like taking an idea that we would enjoy as something in horror, because the whole point of Batman is that he's supposed to scare people straight, and then imagine having to deal with a mutant Batman, like a bat, Man-Bat, whatever. It's like, that would be freaky. And that's what I like about some Batman comics, that they actually lean into the scare factor of like what dealing with Batman is really like, as like if you're a henchman or a goon or something like that. All of a sudden you got, it's like, run, it's the Bat. Heck, there was even a fan-made game. Some of the younger people might know the game. It's called Repo, where you play as like these little robots, and you go into these like weird little mansions or houses, and you basically grab stuff and make sure you make a profit off of it. Somebody made basically Repo, but with Batman, where you play as a bunch of goons going into these like abandoned buildings, maybe hospitals, or some type of building that has a lot of material. You go in and you try to steal things, but in the process, Batman is trying to come after you. And it's like, and it's kind of scary.
Is that the same game Dragon Gaming was talking about?
I don't know. Were they just talking about it in this one or in a different one? Because
yeah, it's right here. It's Dragon Gaming. They did a scary Batman game where he hunts you down and catches you because you play as criminals trying to hide from him.
Yep, that's exactly what I was. Yep, right on the nose, Dragon Gaming. Right on the nose. And that's what that is, because you play as a bunch of criminals and you're trying your best to steal whatever. And in the process, Batman's trying to scare you. But like when you hear how he comes at you, in reality, some of the stuff that you're hearing is like some of his gadgets. But like imagine the grappling hook, right? It's like a rope, but that rope sounds like screeching or like a or like some kind of a scary kind of a sound effect where you're like, oh shoot. And especially with the echoes of a hallway, that really plays up the ambiance of it,
Yeah, so, is that a grappling hook recoiling back into the spindle, or is that a bat monster sucking up somebody's intestines?
I remembered you were talking about this one story idea that you always wanted to do to an extent, about like continuously misdirecting, because you even got me being like, who was it? Where basically like the story was about like basically like this Peter Parker kind of character.
Oh yeah. Well, you never really know.
Yeah. So the perspective is from like the Mary Jane or the Gwen Stacy, the love interest, and they're dating this guy that's a superhero, but this superhero has like this weird dual identity thing, and it's like it has a bit of a cryptic horror side to it, where it's
I mean, like, and I the thing that really got me thinking about it was the Spider-Man game, on PlayStation, because like so much of it, you're sneaking around like Batman, trying to grab people out of the shadows, especially in the beginning until you get a little tougher. And I just realized how terrifying that is. Like for J. Jonah Jameson to be saying what a menace you are all the time, and then you're just sneaking around in the shadows. They're not hearing funny quips from the wall crawler zipping around on lines, from the neighborhood Spider-Man. No, they're just seeing some shadow snag them up with spider webs and wrap them up, like he's going to eat them. That's freaking terrifying, Mark the Shark. He would be an absolutely terrifying character. And then if you were doing it from the outside, like you're not seeing his internal monologue going, you never get his, gee, I have to get home to help Aunt May pay the rent. Like, you only see it from the outside perspective. You never really know if you can trust him or not. Is he scary? Is he a monster on the inside, or is he not? Like, I love the idea of telling a story from that perspective. Like, say the Gwen Stacy, like Lois Lane type character is trying to figure out who the hero is, and then finds out, it's like, well, he can't be bad because I know Peter, he's my photographer, like he's not a bad guy, and then kind of fall for him, and then start to wonder again, is he actually dangerous? Oh, I love the idea. Yeah, it's going to make a good story one of these days. All right, you got a lot farther than I did, a lot faster than I did.
Learn from the best on how to be fast.
I'm telling you.
Learn from the fastest pen of indie comics.
All right.
I'm gonna add like little waves or like
wrong one.
Visual effects of the wind in the background. With the colors of the wind. Oh, da, 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 da. Am I swinging? Color to the wind? Maybe. Do I stink at it? Potentially.
But yeah, I think that would be a really fun story to do one of these days.
And this is exactly the reason why you have difficulty making kid stories.
Oh yeah, I love the more morally complex stories. You know, the I could see it both ways kind of thing. I might not agree with what you're doing, but I do kind of see how you got there kind of things. And the questionable things, what pushes good people to do bad things kind of stories. And I dig all that stuff.
All us construction workers, because we can dig it. Mr. Fish says, Green Zone has any horror characters in it? Ask Marks the Sharks.
It does, but not in the book yet. There are characters that are going to show up later, like Mr. Finders Keepers, that are just absolute totally horror characters. Mr. Finders Keepers would be a great one to do a horror film about. And then there's there's one cybernetic serial killer in there that is absolutely terrifying. I literally had nightmares for years about this dude after working on a story with him earlier years ago, working on a story idea. Never even got published or anything, but he scared me so bad in that it gave me nightmares. I still to this day don't turn my back on the shower door because of a nightmare I had about him. And it's like 20 years later, and I still don't turn my back on the shower door because of that nightmare. What's up, Eddie Von B?
Hey, howdy, hey. And I've just added some magical effects to my little dude over here. Even adding some little leafy effects. Just to kind of sell the magic that he has been gifted. There we go.
I'm going to say white paint on his eye because he's got dark fur and that would stand out better. But yeah, there are some horror characters and some horror story ideas I definitely want to touch on in Green Zone at some point.
Oh, especially when we did the Green Zone Kickstarter launch. I remember that we did a little session where we drew characters for the Green Zone universe, especially for the one that I did, which was like a literal spider Kind of like how I was telling people, like the idea of seeing a Spider-Man being like a real thing, like a hybrid of a spider and a man. That would be scary. And I think I have the image over here. Let me see if I can find it. Where are you? You are right. Not here. Not there. So nope. There you go. If it will show. But when I had like the powers of a spider who can actually make other mutants, this dude would be creepy, because in the Green Zone universe, people who have powers, if I'm incorrect, that are known as genomes, they had to serve about 5 years in any service, whether it be fire department, police, policemen's, or even military. And then I rolled up a character who happened to be military, but has the powers of like a mutant spider guy, and he looks like this. So maybe this guy has practically been serving longer than 5 years, but the military is like, nah, we ain't trying to let this guy out, because look at him. He's wretched.
Yeah, he's not going to get along in normal society, but we can keep him busy over here. We got lots of work for him over here. And I could see him doing it for a while, and then eventually like getting sick of it and going rogue and being like, look, if you're not going to give me my citizenship, I'm gonna do what I want to do.
Like, I might as well just pop off then, if I can't just do, if I can't live like a normal person.
I just want to mow my grass, have a cold brewski, eat one of the neighborhood kids I wrapped up in a web, like anybody.
And then we got Mark the Shark saying, not gonna lie, when I saw the original It, I used to be afraid to go in the bathroom for weeks.
Oh man, I'm still like, and it's stupid because it's a swimming pool, but if I get in a swimming pool and I get far enough to one side that I can't see the other side because it just fades into that blue of the water and what all, I panic and have to swim to the other side because of Jaws in 3D when I was a kid. That flipped me out as a kid. And if I can't see the other side of the pool, I will swim as hard as I can to get to it. And then I'm on the other side. Now I can't see the other side. And I swim back and forth. And I just spent my whole childhood doing laps in pools until I finally got tired and got out. That and watching Ghostbusters was pretty much my whole summer as a child. Every year.
To answer Dragon Game's question, he was not as scary to draw, because, again, I didn't look up any references of any spiders to not do that. I just kind of went off of whatever I believed was the best, imagery for it. So thank God I have more of a
spiders look like.
Listen, I'm good. I don't need to be seeing that nonsense. Again, I love Spider-Man, one of my favorite characters of all time. Horrified of spiders, but when I drew the military spider guy, it wasn't that bad. It was just, just trying to play up the uncanny valley concept of a dude who happens to have spider qualities, like the mandibles, the eyes. It wasn't scary to draw. Trust me. I don't think you're going to be scared when you're in the process of creating something. It's seeing the final product with a fresh pair of eyes is probably what's really going to give it that, like, kind of thing, Like, for instance, imagine the creators who made the dinosaur ride in Animal Kingdom. They're not scared of those dinosaurs, but I haven't seen how they made them. Sure, I can watch videos after videos, but it's one thing to see how they're made, and it's another thing to see them being, like, properly animated through motion. Like, those are, like, I'm not gonna lie, that was the scariest ride in the entirety of Animal Kingdom. It's a fun ride, but scary as heck, because, again, those animatronic dinosaurs are old. But yeah, I wasn't scared as much drawing this guy. He was a lot of fun to do.
See, like, I was terrified for years of Granddaddy Longlegs because I had a traumatic experience with them. And my buddy used to take advantage of it, and he would, like, anytime he wanted to embarrass me, he'd grab a clump of grass or something and throw it at me and scream, "Granddaddy Longlegs!" And just to watch me duck and freak out. Because he's also the kind of guy that would throw a spider on you. And so, yeah. Anyway, I was terrified of them for a long time, but like legit terrified of being close to one. But like looking at one didn't like gross me out. I've always been fascinated by the I can't stand to look at it fear. Like I've seen people that are so afraid of fish that they cannot be in their room with an aquarium because the fish have those weird eyes that are always looking at them and don't blink, and they can't even not even not looking at, they can't be in knowing there's fish in the room, they can't be in there. That blows my mind. I used to work with a lady. Hi, wife. I used to work with a lady. My boss had this book full of like National Geographic collections in her office for years. I was flipping through it one day and saw this picture of this big, green viper, tree viper, and I was like, "Oh, isn't that cool?" She freaks out, throws the book, starts screaming bloody murder, like gets on her chair. I have to take the book out of the office. I have to throw the book away. I can't close the book because she still knows the picture of the snake is inside the book. The book has been in her office for 10 years at this point. Never bothered her before because she didn't know it was there. But now that she knows that the photograph of a snake is in there, she cannot get off of her chair until I take it out to the dumpster and throw it away. And so I threw away like a $60 book because there was a picture of a snake inside. That is fascinating to me. I don't get it, but I'm curiouser and curiouser. I want to know more.
Yeah, character's looking just about right. You see now you're man, that's coming together very nice.
I appreciate it. All right. I think I'm just about there. I need to come up with better color for his club. I want it to be like an enchanted club, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do to make it look like that yet.
I would say always go for like lit up runes or something like that. Like maybe like every carved edge could look like a light up type of situation, or like it's glowing with like the magic that is being imbued by the spirit of the hunt. Whether it's like a blood red glow, maybe even a an icy blue or something like that. But that's my opinion. Nobody asked for.
Those aren't the right colors either, but they will separate out the planes for me for right now, and that'll help me later. So there we go. That's got him roughed in for my Native American warlock bounty hunter. He needs more symbolism on him. He needs more markings other than the one. I'm thinking whatever the spirit is marked his eye, when they touched it to give him the sight to be able to help track down the ones that that the spirit is marked for him to go after.
Well, I can see that working out really well.
That's what I'm thinking. But that was a loud bloop.
That was my side because my friend has this Tamagotchi life thing on her Nintendo, and she's telling us that one of her characters fell in love with some other character. she put all of our D&D characters in her Tamagotchi life, which is super hysterical.
Mm.
What is up with your character? Why is she in love with Sam from Supernatural?
I don't know.
Explain
Why are
yourself.
we all in love with Sam from Supernatural? That's the real
This
question.
is a genuine good question. Have you seen the man? Very regal, very rough, very gruff.
Very dreamy.
But yet there's no such thing as very nightmare-y. Ever notice that?
Oh, the cracks I could make, but I won't.
So far, this is a very every episode from this season is always a unique one, just because of how we're trying our best to work with these designs, or at least I know I am.
Oh yeah, like trying to incorporate in the different themes from different cultures has been a really interesting challenge, and I really like that. It might be, I don't know, it might be a little, I would hate to say easier because I'm never really looking for easier, but it might
right.
be a little more interesting maybe in the end if we did one where we got to deep dive into some culture that we don't know that well,
Mm,
and spend a whole season learning more about different styles and stuff that we could bring in that incorporate, you know, all the cultures that were combined together into the Aztec name. For instance, like if we got to learn more about all that study, we could get a lot more interesting designs by the end of it than we get just with one day of what we can find on Google.
this is
But
true.
at the
Maybe.
same time, this has been fun to challenge us into a lot of different directions, which I like.
Oh, for sure. Not only that, I think it would be interesting maybe for like a season. Maybe we can either do like either taking, a whole culture, like say we did like this whole Native America thing, but then we like amped it up and either put it in a sci-fi setting, fantasy setting, whatever it may be, and then
Mhm.
getting to learn more about it in the process. And then maybe like 4 episodes in, we cut off that one particular culture and then do another 4 episodes where we dive into another one. And then the final four would be like learning about like a completely different culture, getting into that topic. Like say we did all sci-fi, right? But we took the Chinese pantheon, but we made it sci-fi. We learned how those artistic renditions are covered up for for 4 episodes, and then we cut that off, and
Mhm.
then back into sci-fi. But we're doing say uh, German culture, or maybe we're going to do Greek culture, but then adding in that like sci-fi twist. Kind of
Mhm.
doing that would be interesting for a whole season. So that way we're not always like having to cherry pick a whole or having to roll up a different culture all the time. But that's
Yeah.
just
It give you opportunity to dive deeper into it and find more interesting things than just say lederhosen or just like Vikings for the Nordic cultures.
right.
To get into more detailed stuff that made them more nuanced would be interesting. Um, for sure, that would be cool. I was gonna say when you were mentioning that of them being sci-fi and all, you might not have ever read Black Science, but one of my favorite things about it, essentially, it's this dude jumping between dimensions, and then you find out that him and his family and stuff are doing this from all these different dimensions, and so they're traveling all over the place, and you're running into all kinds of versions of yourself and other beings from other dimensions. But in one of the dimensions, the Native Americans were as exclusionary as like the Japanese had been for a long time and wouldn't let anybody in to their culture and their ways, and were the most technologically advanced people on the planet. So to see how far technology went, in North America, and the style and look and stuff of it was so beautiful and so cool. And I thought it was really well thought out to look futuristic, but also look like it was inspired and designed by people with the same sensibility that designed, these forms of pictograph and stuff. Like it had the same design language through it.
Mm.
It was really cool and really well done. It's been something that I want to do something as cool as that. That's been one of those little, goals I give myself. It was so well done. I want to do something that's that cool someday in my career before I die. That's one of my goals. But yeah, if you haven't checked out Black Science, you should. It's pretty cool.
Duly noted. But I think this is more or less going to be at least the end of our drawing session here. I mean, this was a lot of fun to put together and to just kind of see how this works. So we have our ram goat bounty hunter who is given the powers of like the spirit of the hunt, if you will, and then we happen to have this more druidic adjacent, warlock who was made a pact with the spirit of the land and now has to traverse the world trying to figure out what's going on.
Okay, now if he's traversing the world, that would be a really interesting way to get him to come into contact with the Druid Master and stuff to try and find information of to what's throwing the world out of balance and stuff, and to have to test himself and prove himself when he's just a farmer. Like, he didn't come out here to be a Druid warrior or anything, but to have to like face the challenges that this Druid Master would put him against, because oh, that would, and to have most of the answers be just like, I'm a farmer, like, I didn't come here to fight, I didn't come here to learn that, I came here to try and help my farm, and those to all be the right answers, not I want to be the biggest baddest
is like
warrior.
somewhat of an Avatar kind of concept where
Yeah.
like there's a reason to travel around the world, and then there's a problem going on in that section of it, and they either find ways to peacefully end this particular situation, or they have to get brutal and have to fight, and having to learn the ways of the land and being given the powers of the earth spirit, if you will, being able to implement like earth bending techniques and creating wild vines and all that other kind of crazy stuff. That would be very interesting to see how that would work out. And then maybe your character probably dealt with like maybe potential colonizers. Maybe he went against his clan, or maybe he's trying to go against the grain, and maybe he's hunting down high political powers that might be affecting the way
I
that
could
the world.
even see them ending up on the path together, for different reasons, but end up traveling alongside each other, realizing that they're going after the same end goal, like the same thing that's thrown his farm out of balance is the same thing that's thrown their hunting out of balance. And they've been sent to, he's been sent to put an end to it. and, and your guy's been sent to try and find an answer to make it better. And, that could be really interesting. That could be a cool story, because your dude could just be like the nice dude that just wants to, like, say, find who's stealing the water and make them stop. And my dude's like, oh, I'm gonna make them stop. They won't do anything after I'm done with them, kind of mentality. And that could be such a good play off of each other. Oh,
One's
I'm
trying to be the
liking that.
fist, and the other one's trying to pass a fist.
Mhm. Yeah, I like it, and to see them rub off on each other by the end, and your dude have to be able to fight just to be able to get through, and my guy having to be able to forgive and move on and not always resort to violence in every situation, and and to be a species like rams and rhinos that are prey, but aren't prey that you mess with, like their first response being to fight or to hit back before you get hit, and to have to learn to be more peaceful. That could be a really interesting character arc for both of them.
And you were right, Benjamin. These two are very interesting. If anything, I'm not going to say that every character we haven't made hasn't been interesting, because they have, but a lot of them are more very bound to their section of this world, if you will. Like, our Egyptian characters are tied specifically to the Egyptian part of it. It's like they don't really traverse outwardly to it. Same situation with our Aztec characters. Again, they may traverse around the Aztec area. They may travel like within their border, but they don't really look like the kind that completely leaves out of their region, if you will.
So yours looks like it could be a subspecies of Mr. Fishhead. Which, I mean, I could see it. I can
agree to that. I can see that happening. Very aquatic in nature, but somehow an aquatic creature surviving in a very deserty plain. It's the beautiful irony of making much out of nothing. you know. And I can definitely see it. But again, these kind of characters, though, in particular, though they are still within like their own portion of the land, there's now reason to start moving. I guess like the thing is with the other characters that we developed, there wasn't much motivation for them to actually go anywhere. Like I will say, like your traveling merchant has more reason to go out.
He's got a drive to move, but we failed to find any reason to want to follow him on that, really. You know, he's got a reason to show up places and to be places out of his home, but not a real reason that we want to follow him on that journey to watch him grow and change and, you know, enact change. And, you know, an adversary to come up against, or just somebody to know and, you know, to be able to cross paths with from time to time would be cool. But these guys have the real potential. And I figured we would find them eventually. People kept asking.
Yeah.
I figured we would find them eventually. They would show up and be like, you know, hey, I got main character energy. And I really like the idea of your character being like the derpy farm boy that gets sent on a mission who's like way above his pay grade and not what he asked for, and, you know, having to figure out how he's going to survive in that, and wanting to team up with a big scary bounty hunter dude, you know, that is used to fighting might seem like a really good idea, and then, you know, realize that might get you in more trouble than you counted on, and then eventually becoming unlikely allies and, you know, having a positive effect on each other. And I think that's got some legs.
Oh yeah, this has tons of story. Like with these characters, there is story potential. There's now motivation for them to actually traverse and to move and for them to explore the world. And, you know, getting to actually learn about the different cultures. Though yes, we have taken, you know, basic ones that we know of: Egyptian, Chinese, you know, Aztec. It would be interesting to see how some of these cultures might even blend, how some of them are like hardcore separated, or, you know, getting to see how they tolerate or, you know, work along with each other, or not only that,
and how they have effects on each other. Like,
exactly.
you know, like I could absolutely see like the fish people damming up water and stuff to make more wetlands and stuff to increase their territory, say, and that having an effect on other people downriver, you know, not having water and stuff for their crops. Like, I could see all of them having an effect on each other, and some of them only being concerned with their own personal well-being and not given a flip what kind of effect it has on neighboring nations could be really interesting. And I dig it.
There's a lot of potential. And then for Benjamin, he was saying, imagine if like either all the characters that we've made, or at least the ones that I've made, like Rella, Power Core, Jupiter Jack, they were all in this world. I can totally see that as like a fun one-off story. Like maybe, you know, those three somehow managed to get together, and on one crazy space mission, they crash land on this really weird alien planet, and they're trying to find a way to fix their ship and to get them out, to get themselves out of it. And they see this weird nature farm boy being like, you know, speaking a whole different alien gibberish like language, and they're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. Like, yeah, it would be very funny to see how that would go down. But thank you, Dragon Gaming. I'm glad that you enjoyed both of ours, seeing how, you know, you said how both of ours looks awesome. This was definitely, again, this has been a very strange season. I will always say that for this one for now, because it's very different from what we have done for the past two seasons. So, I mean, I thoroughly enjoy the design that it did here. It's simple, very effective, and then not only that, just it feels like he could be like the main character to his own story. Like every character is, but the characters that I've at least drawn felt
that'd be one you'd want to read. That's the thing. That's one that would be fun to read. Not all of them.
Because the other ones were like side characters or like potential rivals or maybe enemies. Or they're basically, as bad as I say it, they're like NPCs. This one has like the cutesy main character energy. This one feels like you can do more customization with it. Every character you could, but I feel like with this one, there's a lot more of that to be had here. An absolute version of Jupiter Jack, the Grub and Unbeatables. I am totally not against that. I I need to figure out how those stories would turn out. I have definite ideas for the grub, and it would be interesting. Who knows? I might have to snag TS for that one because I know he wanted to. I remember that when we did season 2, episode 2, he talked about the idea of like I'll only come on if I ever did like absolute Jupiter Jack or something like that. And I'm not opposed to that. That would be awesome. Getting TS to write absolute Jupiter Jack, that'd be dope. Oh, and if you're talking about like the characters beforehand, but then they live in this world, that would also be interesting. I mean, who knows? I mean, there's a lot of things that come from it, but I really like the fact that we're going very alien with them. Like if I took the Grub or Power Core and just went full blown, like didn't even bother with their human side and just made them look like full blown aliens, that would also be very interesting. And then Jupiter Jack, I wouldn't really know because I feel like he doesn't really kind of fit in this one. He's too much of the Hanna-Barbera 60s style kind of character.
Too much of a human guy with a power sort of vibe.
He is a literal space superhero, which again, we need to get onto that one, especially because that would be a ton of fun to put together. I know I say that a lot, but I feel the potential of it, man. But anyways, I know that it is about to be. What is it like? Well, it's 5:10 over here, but I know that over there it's like 4 or something ish, maybe.
Yeah, it's 4:11 over here.
Yeah, and I don't want to be hostage. I know you got a whole other podcast you got to partake in. Is that happening today or?
Yeah, it is, and we have. Oh goodness, I don't have it pulled up. We have a special guest on today. Another. A guy that did a lot of the voices for bad guys on some of the later Power Ranger seasons and stuff is on there and doing anime voiceovers and stuff. He's done a lot of voice acting stuff. He's going to be on tonight, and I cannot pull up my messages to get his name real quick, and I cannot remember it off the top of my head. I want to say Delaware, and I know that's not right. Well, I've been up since 3:30, so I apologize.
We both have. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like we were both at 15% today, like trying our best to keep up with the energy. But I got hit with the exhaustion stick from work today, and I'm just.
I literally just got back from the con last night. Like
he did
taking me this long to get back home and everything, and. Then today I got the show set up and did this.
To drive to different conventions. He road trips these things to other conventions. So like I believe you're going to one in Ohio, so that's going to be like another trip shooting up north. Having to go to a whole convention in Ohio. I mean, for me, I flew, but that's because I didn't have much with me. If I ever got invited to another convention again, I believe we might be doing Tulip City again next year or whenever that may be. I would gladly do it again, but I would definitely road trip it and actually have the means of propping up and creating a whole proper booth and everything else in between.
That would be my job.
That would be the wife's job, as she has stated. You heard it here, folks. She has legally stated it, so therefore it is no longer my responsibility.
But to answer Summer Bandit's question, it's going to air on my YouTube stream. It's going to air on the 5-Star Feed YouTube channel, which is relatively new. We just started it up with the new. We relaunched the show with a new name again instead of 5-Star Fridays because that tied us to Fridays, and half the time we were traveling to cons on Fridays. So but it'll be on my YouTube for sure, and it'll be on the 5-Star Feed Facebook page and stuff too. So anyway, I'll see y'all over there at 6 Eastern.
But if anything, go check it out. Get yourself some potential knowledge on what it's like to work within this type of industry for, like being the voice actor of Power Ranger villains or even being characters in anime. Who knows? It's going to be very interesting. But I know that I have a date with a titular wife of mine who wants to go to a comic book shop because we have not checked out any of them since we moved here in Orlando. So,
sounds like fun.
Oh, of course. And then not only that, I'm going to see if I can pre-order that new Ben 10 series from Dynamite. So I am super excited for that because they're trying to go like the absolute route for it. So
cool. I'm going to have to put that on.
Yeah. Anyways. Oh, for sure. to the nieces and nephews and to those in between that have finally saw this entire session through, thank you guys so much for partaking on this episode of Roll for Hero. Can't wait to see you next week. So, of course, we're going to end our entire session here. So, to our fellow nieces and nephews, make sure to follow these 3 simple rules. Make sure to stay awesome, stay weird, and to keep life to the easiest. Always remember that art inspires all, but of course, all of you can inspire more. But until then, everybody, see you next week. See you when we see you, and your uncles love you.
Roll for Hero!
And even if you were to have like a prompt of 10 different things, right? Like say if you had one prompt of like, oh, like here's 10 different personality traits, here's 10 different superpowers, here's 10 different drawbacks.
I like coming up with random list of powers and then just see what I come up with.
Imagine rolling just those things every single time. It's always going to vary. The possibility of that happening is, again, like a 1 in 10 chance, but it's like, it shows that there's an infinite possibility.
Always something else cool right around the corner that we can come up with, because there's no end to the prompts. There's no end to what we can